Alright, girls, this is the part on the graphing sine and cosine functions. It's the section 4.4. These are the different equations that we have. Let me turn this so that I don't get a shadow on that part. Y equals a sine, parentheses, bx plus c, parentheses, plus d. And the cosine is the same thing. Of this, the graphs of these, it's when you have a function or things, it's kind of, the wavy lines, the frequency like you have for sound waves. That's what these equations will do. The amplitude then, that is the a value right here. The period is 2 pi divided by the absolute value of b, which is this one right here. The period, then the frequency, that's how far, how many of these little humps there are on each one of it, is the absolute value of b divided by 2 pi. The phase shift is the c value, which is this part right here. It's the negative c value divided by the absolute value of b. And the vertical shift then will be the d, which is that part of the equation there. The vertical shift and the midline is the same thing. So if we're looking at the pictures of it, we're going to have, so this is the kind of thing. This is the graph of one of the equations. The amplitude is the distance between the middle line where it goes through. Notice how it's the same top and bottom. This right here actually is the midline or the vertical shift. The amplitude then is how far up does the hump go or how far down. That's why it was the absolute value of it, because you could have it going up and going down. Going back to the other parts, the period of the cycle is from one group to the other. So this goes one complete cycle. That is the period then. And you can go through the different graphs. So, there's the midline or the vertical shift and the different ones. This one I believe was a sine function and this one was a cosine. So looking at the different things here, my computer is going out. So if you look at, okay, we won't be doing that part. We'll close that. Okay, here's the different things that we're going to go through and see if we can find out what each of the parts were. So if I went through and found the amplitude was the absolute value of a, so absolute value of a, if this is a, so the amplitude is -2, absolute value of it is 2. And if you noticed when it went up that way and down, so it went up 2 and down 2. So that's where the middle part is. Okay, the period, 2 pi over b. So if we set that, the period then, looking at 2 pi, b here is the number in front of the x. In this case, I wrote it x over 4, but it's actually 1/4 x. So b is the 1/4. So if we put that down here in this equation, 2 pi over 1/4, remember this flips over, and it becomes 4 over 1. So 2 pi times 4 over 1 is equal to 8 pi. So that's the period length. Frequency, if we put the b in here, well, we already found out what b is, which was 8 pi. So if we put 8 pi there over 2 pi, the frequency then is 4. So in other words, there are 4 of the up and downs in between the period section. Phase shift, -c over b. Oops, sorry, let's see. B, gotta go back to that one. That was the period, I put that in the wrong place. The b was the 1/4, so 1/4 divided by 2 pi, that would be, I'll move it way over here, 1/4 divided by 2 pi would be down here, so it would be 1 over 8 pi. So yeah, it's actually this flipped over. Phase shift, the c, which is this one, so pi over 3 over b, which was 1/4. When you divide by 1/4, you flip it over and bring it up, so it's -pi over 3 times 4 over 1, which would be 4 pi over 3. So we've got that one. Vertical shift is D, and that's this number here, so that's 2. So that's finding all the different things into the equation. You'll need to do this on a couple of the ones that you have for your homework today. Writing it the backwards way then, what if, there's the regular equation, so using the part to create an equation for the sine function. So here's our usual equation, and amplitude we have is 1. Well, we know right away that 1's going to go in that position there. So I'm going to put it into the equation down here. So we know that that's 1. Frequency, if 3 over 2 pi, and our equation for frequency was absolute value of b over 2 pi. So then what do we know about that? If this is 2 pi here, then 3 is going to have to be what b is. So b is equal to 3. So we're going to put that down in the equation down there as 3. Okay, the period is 2 pi over 3, and the period was 2 pi over the absolute value of b. We already know that b is 3. So we've already solved that because we've got that in that place there. Okay, phase shift. Pi over 6. The phase shift is negative c over the absolute value of b. We found out the b is 3, so what's pi over 6 is equal to negative c over 3. So if we cross multiply and divide, we get 3 pi over 6, and it's got to be negative. This reduces then to negative 1/2, so we put negative 1/2 pi. And then the vertical shift does not say if we have a vertical shift or not, so then that's going to be plus 0. In other words, it's going to go through the center at 0 line. So when it comes up and down, it'll be at the 0 line. So that was doing on that part. Going to my next paper here. So right off, I'm going to put this one in. That's going to be your assignment. And that is on pages 20. So you're going to be doing, you give it a shot. So going through, this would be the graph on it going up and down. And it's best, when you go through and do the graph, you can do it on Desmos, on that, or going through. So on each one of these, you're going to be finding the amplitude, the period, the frequency, and the phase shift. By just using those equations, put in the parts. This is the A, this is the B, this is C. And if there's no number over here, that's the D. But if there's, like over here, this one does have a number. So putting in each one of those different places. And you'll need to solve for them and put them into that too. Then we're going to skip this page here, which is page 21. So you can just X that one out. And then you'll do page 22. And it'll be the same type of thing. The graphs they show between here, because if this is the amplitude, it was 1. You're just going in between the ones there. And pi and 2 pi is how many times going in between that it would be up and down. So your graph itself, if this is 0, it depends on how many, like one period should go through from 0 to pi. So it might even be half of it, so just going through. If you want to graph it, use graph paper, because on the Desmos or that, they graph it with on the regular numbers instead of the pi over 2 and the pi. If you can do it on the graphing calculators and set it so the radians on it, then use on that one. But give all of those a shot and see how well you do. Thank you.